Denis Villeneuve obviously has Dune Part 2 coming out. March 1st is the official release date. Going to be one of our most anticipated movies, probably of this entire decade for everyone here on the pod.
Ever.
We're all insanely excited.
One more sleep, folks. One more sleep.
How dare you? You've seen it tomorrow as well.
7 for
Yeah,
Seth.
Seth, you're not.
No, I'm seeing it like a week.
Before the
How are
next
you
one?
seeing it? Come, how are you seeing it?
Dude, it's just like AMC.
Yeah, AMC has an early fan.
It's not
release.
like a... Because I'm
So
big time,
annoying.
Seth. That's fucking why. They called me up and said, Timmy needs you. Come see this fucking movie, man.
No, there's no like early ones here. It's really annoying, man. They're doing.
Are you seeing it before the next pod?
Yeah, I'm seeing it on Friday.
Okay, cool.
They're doing
Not you,
the what do you call it? They're doing like a. I haven't seen. This is the first film I've seen in a while do midnight screenings near me on the release day.
Oh, like actual
I haven't.
midnight?
Yeah, I haven't seen that in like since people.
Do they
did it for,
not do like?
Endgame.
Do they not do like 7 p.m. screenings on Thursdays? They do, right?
No, because that's not our date, is it? That's your. Because it's like
they do
No,
that for
all
us.
of our dates are like the Friday that it releases, but basically every movie comes out like the night before.
Oh no, I thought.
Interesting.
No, we
yeah.
just do it like it's like if it comes out on the is it the first?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it will come out on the first. Literally like 12:01 a.m. They're doing like screens, but it's the first one I've seen since like Infinity War and stuff, where people were going, at midnight and stuff, which is kind of cool. Yeah.
Dude,
Well, we're all looking forward to it, and obviously next week we'll be going heavy talking about Dune Part 2. But for this week, we're going to go through Denis' entire filmography, starting from the front to the back. So how we're going to do it is similar to how we did M. Night all those years ago or months ago, where we're just going to go front to back from his entire filmography, and then at the very end we will do our actual ranking, each of us from least favorite to favorite. But for now, we're just going to talk about the film in chronological order. So he kind of started his career with Cosmos, which we kind of talked about right before the pod. It's a kind of collection of 6 short films, but they're a lot more connected than normal. So it's an immigrant cabbie connects nervous filmmaker, lawyer, mystery man, possible HIV plus positive gay man, comedy and tragedy mingle, awash in philosophy. So it's 6 different directors that kind of do all these different segments of one 90-minute film that's all kind of connected through this cabbie. But I don't know. It wasn't as stark as I would have expected. It's not like a segment happens, then it like cuts to black, and then a title screen hits the next one. It flows seamlessly. You never would really guess watching it that it's 6 stark directors. It flows a lot nicer, and I liked it. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one here that's seen it. It's not as obviously full Denis Villeneuve, but that's kind of where he started in 1996 before his directorial debut in 1998. August 32nd on Earth. I believe Seth and I are the only ones who've seen it.
No, I think George has seen it.
I saw it. I wanted to rewatch it for the pod, but I
gotcha.
haven't seen it in such a long time.
All right, so August 32nd on Earth. Let me pull up the synopsis here. So this is 1998 when he does his full feature-length directorial debut. After surviving a car wreck virtually unscathed, a young model compels her best friend to impregnate her in the salt flats of Utah. We'll start off with Seth. Seth, what's your kind of thoughts on this movie?
Yeah, not many. I watched this probably like just under a year ago when I was finishing off his filmography. I think that it is fine. It has, artistic vision. I would compare it to like my thoughts on it. I would compare it to like Nolan's debut actually with Following. Were they like the same year as well? I think
98. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, interesting. So wow, they really are on a similar trajectory just in everything, aren't they? It's kind of weird. I think it's fine. I think it's got like the artistic vision's there. I think that it kind of is masked this kind of simple romance, but it is profound. I just think it's kind of boring. It's kind of dull. It's kind of my main complaint with it. I just wasn't that interested with everything that was going on. There were some really cool shots like the desert and stuff. And I think, it kind of has that, it's smaller scale, obviously, but you can see kind of, the future and what Denis can achieve with it, similar to like what I said with Nolan's Following, but it's just kind of boring. There was nothing really there that I could latch on to a lot of the time. And when there was cool moments, they were like, few and far between. Are we saying ratings now, or do you want to say them after? Like, what do you want to do? Because I think it's like a spoiler if we say ratings now and then.
Yeah, that works. We can just talk general.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like it. I mean, I don't hate it. I'll just say that, but I didn't really like it. It's nothing that I could really latch onto and like many of his films. And it also, even though I don't think it's as simplistic as it seems on the surface, I don't actually find the actual themes of it that interesting and how they're presented. Because there's other films that we're going to speak about that Denis done soon, which are early on in his career, like Polytechnic, like Maelstrom, where even though some of it went over my head and I didn't really like, it was something I could actually have a conversation about and be interested in. But this one, not so much.
George, any thoughts on August 32nd on Earth?
Honestly, not really. It's been so long since I've watched this movie. More so just like crazy to see like he and Nolan have had like a very similar trajectory in film, and it's kind of fucking
and they're
wild.
buddies
same
now.
age.
Yeah, and they're fucking
buddies.
boys.
Yeah, they're fellas together right now. Doing all this
but
press tour and everything.
Yeah, Denis is like 57, I think. I don't know, Christopher Nolan.
56. So there's 3 years between them. So they're like, it's pretty interesting.
Dudes.
How old's Nolan? 59 or 53?
53.
Oh, okay. Young guy.
Yeah, he's pretty young.
Yeah, but they got decades to go still if they want to. But yeah, for me, August 32nd on Earth, like Seth said, I think there's more that meets the eye. It just wasn't the most captivating. I gave it a 3-star. I guess that's kind of a spoiler, but I have a lot of stuff tied down there. So it doesn't really say the order. But yeah, very, very pretty movie. I think Denis Villeneuve's directorial skills have been apparent from the beginning. It's the classic, like I feel like everyone's had this like, I don't know. You've heard about this story time and time again where it's like, people are like, oh, if we're both single, like, best friends, guy and girl, the classic friend zone situation. Like, oh, if we're both single and don't have kids in our 30s, then we're going to, meet up and we're going to start a family of our own. Wonder if anyone actually follows through on that, like normal people, if they actually do that. Cause I feel like that's the story as old as time of a dude that's in the friend zone heavy that tries to cope by saying like, like if we're still single in 12 years when we're long past high school, then, we'll get back together and have kids. But yeah, I just think, with the car accident with Philippe at the very end, kind of getting bludgeoned, with the dates going from August 32nd to August 38th, which obviously are just like not real dates. They find like a dead body. The desert just looks super clean and pristine. I think it could be, more spiritual and, they could just be dead the whole time. There's more purgatory or something like that. But yeah, I think there's more here that I just didn't fully grasp onto, but I enjoyed it for what it was. It's a tight about 80 minutes, so it's a quick watch. But yeah, nothing crazy there from his directorial debut. But he followed that up 2 years later with Maelstrom, which is about a woman after plunging her car into a river. A woman encounters a man who helps her come to terms with her life. This, I feel like, is now after seeing his entire filmography, I feel like this is probably his most art house film. Definitely weird in a lot of ways. I mean, you have like a talking fish literally narrating the film, and it's a grotesque talking fish. Just a weird movie. I'll start this one. So who's all seen this one? I know Seth and I have.
We've all seen this one.
We all have. Cam, we're going to start with you on this one. What's your thoughts on Maelstrom? If that's how we're pronounced correctly. The way to pronounce things is you just charge fearlessly into the pronunciation and no one will question it.
Maelstrom.
Yeah,
I don't know if I gave this one a good chance, to be honest, because I think like last night, and I knew it was like a foreign film, so I knew I'd have to pay attention a lot, but I was like kind of thinking, all right, I'll throw this on, sit down and do some laundry while I watch it. I don't think I gave it a fair chance. I just didn't care for it. I was bored the whole time. I didn't think any of the performances were like anything to write home about. I thought this was Denny, in my opinions, like least good directed film. Like I didn't love Polytechnique, which we'll talk soon, but I think like Denny directed the shit out of that thing. Still, this one, I definitely think he, like you said, he did try to take a more art house approach. Some things worked, some things didn't, like the whatever Molly scene or whatever she was on in the club. I was like, I just don't think this is Denny's vibe, or at least maybe that it was, but it's not anymore. I don't know, but I didn't think it worked as well. It just, I don't know, wasn't for me. And like, I knew if I posted a 1.5, I'd get shit on. Sorry, I guess I spoiled that. I'd get shit on Letterboxd, so I just put like not enough Avengers in this. That was my review. But I don't know. I just didn't care for like almost any moment in this. I think there's some interesting things, like the idea of like grief and coping with. We're spoiling, right? Like it's not this isn't a big spoiler.
No, yeah.
Grief, coping with someone who's like you killed their father, right? So that's like a really interesting concept, I think. But I didn't personally care for the movie as a whole. Not a whole lot to say on it. Other than I was just bored, to be honest. Wasn't for me.
Yeah, I think Seth's the highest on this one, but for me, it's just It was fine. I didn't find myself gripped by it. I found myself a little more into the vibe of August 32nd on Earth. Maelstrom is obviously a very, very different vibe than that. It's a lot darker. It's coping with grief and guilt, especially. It's the third act, I think, is kind of what bought me in. So there's like a scene in a coffee shop, and then from there on till the end of the movie, I think I was the most into. But the first two acts just failed to grip me into it. Very weird, like the fish, just super odd and grotesque, and yeah, I don't know. I just came away from this thing like, this is kind of like the most art house I feel like Denis Villeneuve went, and it just didn't fully click for me. And yeah, I know Seth, you're the highest on it of us three, and George I see is still in your watch list. Seth, what's your thoughts on Maelstrom?
Yeah, I kind of like it. I will say that I kind of agree that I think throughout the kind of middle range, it's tonally quite all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it because I think not only is it an exploration of mortality and grief, which I always tend to like thematically, and it's stuff that interests me. I think it's weird, it's surreal, with the talking fish, very Cronenberg-esque with the design, which is interesting. Tyler, you'll know, is a massive crone head, as we used to say.
The big guy.
Big crone head. But I think that not only is it kind of strange and surreal, but it's also kind of grounded in reality and then kind of relatable within its themes of regret and grief. And I think that it's unlike, it's very much Denis' kind of art house film. Very much took a plunge with this one, and I think it's admirable because I think it is ambitious. It's weird. It's the sort of stuff I usually quite like anyway. I actually do think some of the shots in this are really cool, and contrary to Carmi, I actually think that I don't know her name. The lead was actually really good. I really liked her performance a lot. I think she was great. Yeah, totally all over the place a bit. It's not something I'm crazy about by any means, but I did have a pretty decent time with it. And I think the ending, the final act, is by far, like Tyler said, the best thing about the film, and really manages to pull you in. Because in the middle, it does get a bit like, what's even going on? But yeah, I like it. I think it's strange, surreal, but also grounded and realistic, which I tend to appreciate. And it has themes that actually interest me, unlike August 32nd on Earth. So yeah, I liked it. It's not something I'm crazy about by any means, but I thought it was good.
Mm-hmm. And
I will say,
go ahead.
Sorry. No, I will say, like, directing has its give and takes as like a career, because you have to do it till you're like 80, or you don't have to, but like Francis Ford Coppola is still pushing out movies. What's he, like 89? But also Denny goes on a 9-year break here. I would work till I was 80 or 90 if I could take a 9-year break in my career. Like I would do that in my
I was just
my
thinking
20s or 30s.
I mean, he had his share of short films in that time.
That's fair, but short films.
I'm sure he was writing a lot.
He's probably writing his next movies, which I think, and again, I didn't watch Cosmos or August 32nd on Earth, but from the description that you guys give or from your reviews, I think like there's a clear jump in Denny's output and just like quality of movie from
that's what he spent 9 years doing.
That may be true. Maybe true. He's like, I'm going to write fucking Prisoners.
It is a crazy jump, though, because even including the shorts, like, so Maelstrom was 2000, which came right out the back of August 32nd on Earth in 1998, which Cosmos 2 years before that. So a pretty standard director timeline. And then his next short gets released 6 years later in 2006, 120 Seconds to Get Elected. Quick 2-minute film with Alexis Martin reunited with him from August.
That's not like, you can't count that as work. That's just
that's what I'm saying. Like, it's crazy. Yeah,
a 2-minute film. You can't count that.
And it's just Alexi Martin giving a speech, trying to win over a crowd to get elected, and just kind of a critique on obviously how politicians just say whatever they want. Like, they hear booing in the crowd, they're like, oh shit, I gotta change my, gotta start saying something to get them cheering, and then just make up shit until the crowd loves you to get elected. And then obviously, as we all see with all politicians, they get elected based on promises and then don't do anything there. And then a year after that, he did Happiness Bound, which was a documentary that I think is the one thing none of us have seen. And then a year after that is Next Floor, which is a short that I think me, Seth, and George all logged. Me and George logged. But that's like, so 120 Seconds to Get Elected is like, a 2-minute, just like kind of like a fun speech that was edited together. Whereas Next Floor is like a true short film, like 10 minutes long, like production value is pretty high in it. That's like a, kind of what you more think of when you think of a short film, not just like a 2-minute of a guy giving a speech. But I don't know. We don't really have to go into the shorts, but Next Floor came out. I liked it. I think we all kind of liked it. I don't know. You guys don't rate your short films, but
it was like it was fine. I think it was fine. Like, it's very, on the nose, just allegory for overindulgence. But I kind of works because it's kind of just disgusting and weird. And yeah, it's a very kind of a bit more high prediction than those other ones, like you said. I thought it was fine.
Mhm.
Nothing,
Did you guys ever
crazy about it.
watch that Netflix Spanish movie Platform?
Platform.
Platform.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
That's
like,
what the
this
shit
is like,
kind of reminded me
yeah,
of.
platform mixed with like the menu.
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
like
Vaguer.
thematically, because it's like so obvious, but it's so obvious what it means as well. I think, yeah, Platform's interesting. Maybe I should revisit that. I haven't seen that since it came out. I haven't really thought about that film at all.
I think
since it
Platform
got
2
released.
is
Not
coming
great,
out,
but it's
so.
not bad.
Yeah,
Platform
Platform
2 is coming out. There's
Yeah,
more
yeah.
platforms.
Ah, shit, crazy.
It's now like there's also like there's floor. It's just a building. There's like different rooms. It's just a building.
So that brings us to, so now he started his career kind of in 1996, and now that brings us all the way up to 2009. So through then we had 2 feature films, 1 collaboration, and then a couple of shorts. So 1996 to 2009, 13 years, not a ton of output, but now we're starting to get to the point where it's just more popular films in terms of what people are watching. Polytechnique came out in 2009, based on the real massacre at the École Polytechnique Engineering School in Montreal in the 80s. Let me make sure I got that date right. Yes, in the 80s. Yeah, so real massacre that happened. I wasn't familiar with it, but it was a landmark in Canada, spearheaded a lot of gun reform and gun control as a result. Also, police training was a big
Maybe
thing
we
as
should
well.
learn a little from that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think Canada. I was every country's steps still to go, but yeah, America's done nothing other than, like, thoughts and prayers every time it happens. But yeah, Polytechnique, the actual massacre, led to some gun reform, led to a lot of police training on how to handle these situations, because in the late 1900s, school shootings were just like not nearly as common as they are today. It was really the Polytechnique one for Canada being the landmark one, and then Columbine in America. And a lot had to be trained for police and how they react, and not just creating a perimeter, but actually going in and dealing with things. But it was a man who left a manifesto basically of how much he hates feminists, and he goes to an engineering school where he feels women don't belong, feels like they're just kind of leeches on the system, and ends up just going on a rampage. And for about 15 minutes, he was just completely unbothered by police or any security. And I want to get this number right. So how many, what the victim total was, but I believe it was 14. And then there's a lot more injured, obviously, as well. And then he took his own life. And it's just a film, kind of the recreation of that. Also, two of the people that were involved in it ended up taking their own lives a couple of years after, due to guilt and survivor's guilt and trauma as a result. So very heavy, impactful subject matter this is tackling. It was being produced by this woman named Carmi Villeneuve, who was very passionate about what happened in this project and trying to bring it to the screen. And then she ultimately was able to get Denis Villeneuve attached. So it wasn't really a passion project of him from the get-go. Obviously, as a Canadian, he was very passionate about it, but he was kind of attached as the director in the later stages. The school offered them, said they could film on location if they wanted to, but Denis turned that down out of respect. But yeah, in terms of, I feel like movies like this are always kind of near impossible to make, because I even feel that way about war films in general. It's just like, it's kind of hard to make films without glorifying things or without dramatizing things or trying to make a buck or win an award off of something that was so terrible in many people's lives. But at least from the research in this film, it sounds like Carmi Villeneuve, who produced this, is really the families of the victims were very involved in the production of this movie, as well as the surviving ones, which is something like the Dahmer Netflix series from last year can't say. They just produced it without even addressing the families. So you at least like to see something like that. But yeah, we'll get into our thoughts. I believe we've all seen this one. George, I know you don't have it rated, but it says you've watched it, so it's probably been a bit. But Seth, what are your thoughts on Polytechnique?
Yeah, I don't know. So I watched this about same 8-9 months ago. So the more I think about this film, the less I like it, to be honest. I know I have it a 3-star, and that's not like I don't know. It's tough because it's hard to speak about a film like this, especially when you don't. I had no idea about this like tragedy before watching it, and also when I say I like it less than I did when I first watched it. It's not really a case where I don't think it was told with sincerity, because I think it's a bit different. Like you said, the family were all involved. I think it was kind of a group thing where it wasn't just told out of the pointlessness of it. But I also think that these sort of films I struggle with a lot of times because I don't really see the point of them making them. I think that there's some really like amazing work in this. Like visually, I think some of the shots in this are like insane. But I think I don't know. It's always going to be when it comes to real events, like Tyler said, even if it's a a war film, a massacre, a public massacre like this, it's a tough balancing act between how to manage it with sincerity, and I don't know. And even though I think that was the goal, it's just not really a film I think needed to be made. And again, what film needs to be made? But I don't know what this told more than the things that everyone already knew about it, and I don't know if that should be relived for a lot of people. But again, it's not like something. There's a lot of films of this nature where I think are actually distasteful, and I don't really think this is. But at the same time, I just don't really think it's a film for me, so I might have drop my rating to be honest. But yeah, I think it's really well made. Just not really something that I think should be tackled. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I really struggle with that in general for all films. Like even like Schindler's List, like does that need to be made? The Zone of Interest, did that need to be made? Because in fact, because I know the Zone of Interest is like the classic, like showing that we shouldn't be glorifying these things and making them into consumption for entertainment, but at the same time, like it's going to be winning awards, it's making money. So at the end of the day, like you can say all you want, like look at these other films that are glorifying stuff, they're terrible, but at the end of the day, you're making money, you all got paid out of making a movie out of this tragedy. So it's like, I don't know, like Zone of Interest, Schindler's List, anything about a war, anything about tragedy, it's always tough for me. I always think about it. And after watching this, it made me reflect a lot about just like every film about like real life tragedy. Like, did it need to be made? And like you said, I know, Seth, does anything need to be made? But what's the point, I guess, at the end of the day? And I think a lot of it has to do with intention and what the outcome comes. And all you can hope for at the end of the day is that it keeps spurring conversation going forward. I know Canada's had obviously school shootings since the actual events that happened. A big one, I believe, in 2006 as well. So this came out in 2009. So maybe, they're trying to reignite that conversation and remind people of something like from the 80s that was kind of a landmark in their country that didn't seem like they learned enough from. So yeah, all you want is at least if they can spur conversation again, then great. But yeah, it's just always weird with anything about real life events in general. Like are you just kind of dramatizing and glorifying things that happen just for views and for awards and for money? But Cam, what are your thoughts on Polytechnique?
I enjoyed it more than like everyone. I only have like 3 mutuals that I've watched it, or 4, but other than George, I guess, who just doesn't have it rated. But I have the highest rated. I enjoyed it. Not enjoyed it, for the most part, but I did think it was made with the right intentions. And I also looked up like after, like how involved were the like people affected by this, because I think that is a big, it probably shouldn't be like a criteria for a movie that I look into, but I think it's like an important part of a movie. Like the Dahmer series is a good series. Like if you watch it for pure entertainment, yeah, it's a good series that's interesting. But then again, you mentioned that like none of the families like approved of this in any way. Like that's kind of fucked up. That like that is 100% made for like entertainment of like, look how fucked up this guy is, whereas this, I feel like, is made with a lot more heart and soul, and it's definitely like produced with care and is sympathetic to those families and everything. And so I appreciate that about it. And I saw a lot of reviews that were like, Denis Villeneuve shouldn't have been the person to make this because he's a guy. And this is what's anti-feminist? Misogynist. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word right now. Yeah, about a misogynist. But like I think that's just like honestly like fucked up to say like about like I don't think anyone really, unless clearly they didn't get approval from the family and they're just like, I'm gonna make this fucking movie. Like he clearly had a intent to make this with care and had approval. And like Tyler mentioned, like this wasn't his passion project. He was asked to come on this project because he can make it maybe a little bit more technically sound than some other director could. And that will in tune, like if you see a highly rated movie on Letterboxd or on Rotten Tomatoes or whatever, it will in tune get more people to watch it, get more eyes on this tragedy. Because this is not something I knew about like at all before this. I didn't know anything about this movie before watching it. I just kind of turned it on and started watching it. I was like, what the fuck, like it just started out like, what the fuck am I watching? Because I didn't read anything about it, but it's good for people like me to learn, like not like I didn't know what was going on during it or anything. I will say it's an hour and 15 minutes long. I definitely think it was told a little bit oddly in the sense that it focuses a lot on the shooter, and I would have preferred, and maybe that's where people's gripes come from. I think it could have, give it 15 more minutes focusing on the victims, and that's still an hour and 30 movie. That is not like long at all. That was probably my biggest gripe about it. And then just, I don't think I was in the mindset to watch this like heartbreaking of a tragedy. I thought also, I was confused for a sec. I thought Denny started making English films with what was his first? It was Prisoners. I thought Prisoners was his first like English language film. Polytechnic was apparently.
I mean, it's like half. There's also just not much dialogue in general.
There's not much dialogue, but like I thought I was like watching a subbed version or a dubbed version. I mean, and I'm like, am I watching the right thing right now? Because I was fully expecting.
Well, did yours have any French in it?
Not that I remember. Maybe some.
There's definitely French in mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I watched it on Tubi or whatever. Like it was I don't know where you guys watched it, but I was like, am I watching the right fucking movie?
So I mean, at the end of the day, he's French in terms of the sense of it, French Canadian. So and all these are Canadian films. So it's like, exactly. It's like a half and half in that country. So.
Exactly. But that was one of the biggest things I thought about afterwards, other than the tragedy, was like, did I watch the right movie?
Did you watch it, Doug? I'm actually thinking.
I don't know. Everything, like all of the like,
I remember.
I looked because all of the mouths were lining up. So he would have had to record these actors like saying these words. It wasn't like a dubbed version, but it was like I thought it was supposed to be in French or something, but I don't know. I watched an English movie, man. So who knows? Maybe I didn't get the full.
I actually don't remember any English in it because I know August 32nd on Earth.
No, the whole thing was English.
So I think now I'm like,
because August 32nd on Earth, they like travel to Utah, so there's like some English speaking in it. But,
travel.
But
I watched this shit on Tubi, man. What are you doing to me, Tubi?
I don't know. Interesting. Also, so last in the Real Patreon last week, I mentioned Fandor, which is like a streaming service through Amazon, which I got a free trial through, which I was able to watch an elephant sitting still. I was praising it because I was like, oh, it's cheap and it's got some good stuff. It's kind of screw Fandor because it has both August 32nd on Earth, Maelstrom, and Cosmos. It has all three of them. No subtitles, only French subtitles. So I'm like, what are we doing here? This is worthless to me. So, but they all were available on other platforms. I had to rent a couple and. Cosmos, I think, is on YouTube for free, but yeah.
I mean, it says it's directed by Denis Villeneuve. I don't know what movie I watched though, man. It was not in French.
Well, I mean, you definitely watched the right movie.
No, you watched the film. Yeah. You clearly, there's not going to be another film that's exactly the same as you suggested. I think you might have watched. You might have watched it, Doug.
George, how long has it been since you watched it? Do you have any thoughts on it, or has it been too long?
It actually hasn't been a long time. I think it was like a year ago. Or maybe even before Dune Part 1 came out, where I did like a complete sweep through Denis' filmography. I kind of removed my rating not too long ago, just kind of for all the points that like you guys bring up, where it's like, it's nice, like he got the families involved and everything, but it's still like a weird film to like look at and analyze and like say that I enjoyed.
Giving a rating, I think, is weird in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a weird film. Same with like I've been considering like taking my rating away from the zone of interest until I rewatch it. Like they're just weird films to like look at and give ratings. I think from a direction standpoint, this is like Denis' entire career has just been like taking fat risks left and right, and this was just the biggest one. This could have easily folded his career, I think. Obviously, thankfully, it did not. I think he approached it very well. And then he goes on the craziest run of like 7 films I've ever seen. But yeah, I don't really have any more to add to the discourse outside of what you guys said. But from a direction standpoint, this still feels like Denis is kind of like, he still feels like a very young filmmaker trying to find himself, kind of trying to like understand his filmmaking tactics. And it's not until On Sunday where I think he really kind of breaks out of that shell, which we're about to get into.
Did you watch it in French or English, George? That's the question.
It's good discourse, man.
That's an all-time ReelTok moment.
Dude, I swear to God, this entire movie was in English. Like, I'm not kidding. I was like, there are some French moments, like maybe 1 or 2, but
no, that's wild. Because anyone who saw my Letterboxd diary, I watched it.
What'd you guys watch it on?
I can't. Mine might have been Tubi. Also, I can't remember. I think I rented it through Amazon actually.
And it's all the same actors.
Yeah,
I
like
don't know.
I don't know, because I watched so many yesterday that I couldn't keep them all together in my head. So I was like, yeah, one had like half English, half French. And as you kept talking, I was like, no, that was August 32nd on Earth. That was like half in English and half in French. So
Half in
yeah, I
French.
don't remember any English in Polytechnique, but
Shit. All
good,
right,
good
my
for
bad.
you,
Tyler.
Kayla. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's hilarious. Like I thought Prisoners was his first English language film, but Polytechnique.
And we're like, yeah.
Yeah, Polytechnic.
I was like,
was 100%
when he started that, I'm like,
in English.
where's he going with the sentence? Where's this gonna end up? I have no clue. But yeah, it's also like tough with movies like these because you watch it, and this isn't just Polytechnique, but anytime it's about like a tragedy, and you're just like, you look at it and you almost critique like the actions of the people. It's like how accurate was it to what the people did? Because like I know when I watched this, I like wanted to Google right away how it all went down because I was like, first off, I was police response, like where the hell like is anyone? And then I was like, man, like it's just impossible. These situations like this are impossible to know what you would do in that situation. Thankfully, none of us have had to be in a situation unless you guys have been hiding something from me where you're part of a mass shooting. And it's just like, I don't know. It's like, you kind of like are like trying to yell at your TV screen. It's like, all of you just try and like rush at him at once and tackle him or something because he's just kind of going. And it's just tough when you do stuff like this because like then you're just going to be watching and critiquing what happened. It's like, how accurate was it?
Yeah.
So, but right after that, so what's weird too is this is like produced and written by a bunch of people. Like there's like 4 different writers attached. Denis on there, but he wasn't there till the very end. And they said they attached him as director because of how the success of Maelstrom, and kind of similar to what we were talking about earlier. It's like that was like 9 years ago. So it's like, and he had really no work between then. So it's like kind of odd that they're like, we got this perfect film. Let's grab this guy who we loved his film from 9 years ago, who hasn't done anything since, and grab him for it. But right after this, a year later, is Enseigne. I want to talk about it briefly, but I do want to point people to real quick episode 13. But we'll talk a little more because it's been a long time.
That's
Yeah,
crazy. Episode
for-
13.
First one.
Yeah.
We were doing one at
the
a
first
time.
real quick review, but yeah, go watch that. It'll be linked in the description down below. We talk a lot longer and in depth, but since time's gone by, we'll talk a little more. But I just want to say let's try and point people to that real quick. Since we did talk a full episode on Sunday, but we'll go briefly through it. So George, since I feel like I've been hearing you talk the least, we'll jump into you quickly.
Yeah, this is where people start taking Denis seriously. This is kind of where, like I said, not you know what I mean. Seriously, as like one of the
you
most
didn't like
prolific
any of the
films.
last 5 movies. Seth.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You didn't love them.
Did you listen to anything I said about
You
Maelstrom?
said, I liked them. It's nothing great. Like,
yeah, I did like it.
No,
So
okay. Without the success of Enseigne, I don't think Denis goes on to have as prolific of a
Seth,
career
you know,
as-
Enseigne is a different level.
Yeah, it's on
is
another
this his
level.
highest rated?
Both-
Did we say that?
I think it is.
It is.
Dune might be now.
Yeah, George,
Fuck yeah, dude.
this is really
Wow,
interesting.
yeah, this is his highest rated.
Yeah.
George,
We
continue. I
talked
don't want to interrupt, but I do want to bring that up actually because it is interesting.
Yeah, now that I'm looking at like his highest rated films, that's crazy. But yeah, no, the biggest thing to point out, this is where people started to take him seriously as one of the most prolific filmmakers working today, a filmmaker who can tackle psychological tension anywhere, whether it's within war. He's gone on to prove himself in cartel stuff, in science fiction. This is where people started to take his science fiction filmmaking, his psychological filmmaking seriously. He proved that he is more than capable of taking any screenplay that is thrown in his lap and turning it into just the most profound and jaw-dropping experience that you could possibly have. Enseigne may not be as conceptually bold as Blade Runner or Dune or Arrival, but it is one of the most devastating portraits of war that I think we've ever seen. Like Tyler said, real quick, episode 13, I remember that as being one of our longer real quicks because I know we all 4 have it at, do we all 4 have it at a 4.5 out of 5 or above? I'm pretty sure.
I don't anymore, unfortunately.
Well, you should. You're wrong.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I'll end my rent there. This is, like I said, this is just legitimately. I think this kickstarts like the greatest 7 film run in any filmmaker's career. About to be 8 when Dune 2 drops,
And then could be 9 when Dune 3 drops.
and it could be 9 when Dune 3, could be 10 when Rendezvous with Rama drops.
And then Cleopatra, like who knows? You got a lot of stuff cooking. But Seth, what's your thoughts on Enseigne? And you moved it down a bit, so anything?
Yeah,
changed?
there's only one reason for that, to be honest. I think it's a really, really good film. I think it's really great. Obviously, like I said, like Tyler said, we did a half an hour review on it. over a year ago. That's insane. Feels so much like closer. Yeah, I think it's haunting. I think it's powerful. I think it's handled with care and in the right way, just through sequences of uncertainty. It's thrilling. It's a deeply visceral and emotional experience where we follow, this woman on just such a horrific journey. It really showcases in the light of things that are happening in the real world that a lot of people just aren't really familiar with. The only thing that made me drop this, and again, it's not dropping it 5, it's still a 4-star. I still think it's a really, really good film. I just don't really like the concept of the twist. This, which isn't saying no. Hear me out. It's not saying that the twist is bad. I think the twist is done like really well, like not at all. For me, the twist kind of cheapens it a little bit in terms of the film because of kind of what we go through in the film.
I think it's you can go so many different directions within like a war film, and I think this is one of those like twisty moments that you could have asked me to predict this movie 1,000 times or predict where it was going to go, and I genuinely would have never predicted that.
I agree.
I
agree.
I think it's just that from that perspective, and just Denis building this, like the entire movie kind of feels like you're elevating yourself on like a roller coaster, and that twist hits and it just takes off, and you're kind of just like sitting there. It doesn't matter how many times I watch this movie, my jaw is just on the floor every single time, because I just think it's, one, such a testament to the screenplay, and two, such a testament to Denis' directing ability and how he was able to translate that screenplay to the big screen and make this an effective twist.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that it's not. I don't think the actual twist itself or the ending is done badly at all. I think it works really, really well. I just don't like it within the context of the rest of the story, to be honest. But I still think it's good. And I think it's a really, really good film. Obviously, I was about to say where I rank it, but I won't say that yet.
No spoilers.
Need to rewatch it though, because I haven't watched it in a while since we did our last episode. Should have rewatched it, to be honest. But yeah, really, really good. Really good.
Yeah, that On D is one that I really want to rewatch as well, because I moved it down to a 4-star, but I don't really know where to peg it ranking wise. Like, I mean, we'll talk about our rankings. I have it obviously in a spot, but it's a tough one for me to rank, because I feel like it could go up and it could go down. The only thing I have, I guess, comment on the plot twist, I feel like it's one of the more like convenient plot twists in like film history, where it's like one you're gonna have to like really buy into, that it's like, it's 1 in a million is underselling it. Like, to see that, at a community pool, be in the same exact area, same place, same time, and make that realization.
Shout out Tyler Whitmore, Trivia 10.
Yeah, that was your question, right? Yeah,
it was my question.
Yep. Yeah,
I did so well on that, George. He said to me, "What was the plot twist?" And I said specific body part. I said he was asking for the foot, and I said the ankle. It was crazy.
Yeah, and we're filming another one with you today later. I hope you remembered that.
Oh shit, yeah.
So On D, like I said, we did a real quick on it. It'll be linked in the description down below, where we talk about it for 30 minutes. But long story short, for me, is just it's one that I need to rewatch. Focus more on getting watches of all the stuff I hadn't seen at this point to finish off a filmography. But this is definitely the one that's like the hardest one for me to rank, because I don't know. I could easily see it going down a couple pegs based on when you'll end up seeing my ranking where it's at, and then it could also go up. But Cam, do you have anything more to add on D?
Just that I think I have early onset dementia. I don't
watch Still Alice.
Okay. I don't remember this movie super well at all. Like, I remember, I give it a 4.5 out of 5, and I really like it. And I think that's why I'm so bad at your trivia, Tyler. I couldn't tell you what the twist in this was. Can't remember, were they like sister and brother or something?
It was her son.
Well, yeah, that's it. Yes, her son. Yeah. I couldn't remember that shit, man. And I think that's obviously the biggest part. I just like, unless I watch a movie twice, I'm fucking lost. I have the worst.
You should go back and listen to our real quick review.
I think I might. But I remember loving it. I remember really liking it. That's all I remember.
Yeah, you'll be nodding along, being like, "This Cam guy's got some good takes."
Yeah, right. He's cooking here. Let him.
Just because we're about to like head into Prisoners 2, didn't he really like started this like post 2009 run of like not making it easy to watch films?
No,
like going from a mass shooting to the tragedy of war to abduction of your children. Like,
Blade Runner 2049 is like his easiest to watch film.
yeah,
Because
and
like
it's
even
still, like-
Arrival is kind of like that's a bummer movie.
Yeah,
man.
Rival's
Like,
sad.
yeah.
Rival's
Sicario has some gruesome scenes. as well.
Sicario is
Yeah.
kind of fucked. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
like he's really making like some movies where you're like, damn, this is just.
Enemy's
These are
sad
tough.
as
I mean,
well.
Dune's
fucking sad.
all of his sci-fi movies are actually Arrival sci-fi, but his sci-fi new movies are easier to watch. He's gone soft. Denis Villeneuve went rogue. Wake up,
Dune's
liberals.
tragic, man. Dune's tragic.
Wake up, liberals. He went woke.
But before we get into Prisoners, so at this point we're in 2010, and we got 2 short films from him in 2011 that I watched last night that completely hypnotized me. They're both on YouTube if you guys want to watch them. First is Empirical Study on the Influence of Sound on Retinal Persistence, and it's basically his little mind game study of basically it's just red. All it is a minute of red and green strobe lights flashing super fast. That'll give you, like, if you have epilepsy, do not watch. And then there's music going along in the background that goes from like a slow drum beat to faster, and the pace changes, and it's kind of just like a interesting little thing to watch and be like, okay, well, the visuals are strobing at the same exact pace, but because the audio is changing how fast it's going in your mind, you think it's faster strobe, slower strobe. So I don't know, it just seemed like he was doing a little study with himself on how sound impacts film. And then you have Rated R for Nudity, which the short has literally nothing to do with that name. It's also on YouTube, 3 minutes long, and it's interesting. It's kind of just like an autobiography a bit. It talks about like his childhood, his early career. Like he's like, when I grew up, I wanted to be Ingmar Bergman, which is like a really interesting thing from Denis Villeneuve. Like that's just so interesting that
isn't it?
His big influences. Because like obviously, you know, we saw with like 2001 being his first of his favorite films, and like you, based on his filmography, you'd be like, oh, it's very like more Kubrick.
Actually,
I'd say.
I think like thematically, a lot of Denis films go into the same stuff that Bergman did in his career. Honestly, I think you can see
way different style of film, but yeah,
Denis greater than Bergman.
Okay, let's just calm down. Resemble, yeah, different, of course, massively different in terms of like the actual film itself. But you know, I kind of get it. Mortality in a lot of his films, you know.
I literally just watched Empirical Study while you guys were ranting about Polytechnique. This would be Owen's favorite Denis movie.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah, the last line of my Letterboxd review is like kind of just makes me want to rewatch Babylon now because like the final, it's all the colors and sound. But yeah, Rated R for Nudity is wild. It literally is like hypnotic. There's the middle of it goes on a crazy black and white strobe that again, epilepsy warning, and then it just like ends with him saying like, "I own your subconscious, I own you," and I'm like, "Whoa, Denis, what?" And the thing that's cool about these shorts though is, and which I said in one of my reviews, is that I feel like we've tapped into 10% of Denis Villeneuve's weirdness in the feature-length films. Like I feel like he has so much weirdness left in him.
Weirdness, he does. Yeah,
we saw flashes of that in Maelstrom, and Next Floor, that other short we talked about. And I just feel like if he can finish like his Dune franchise off, do a couple more blockbusters like he's planning, and then kind of do more of like I know Francis Ford Coppola more did it because he wasn't, granted the big budgets anymore. But if he can start doing just whatever he wants and just the weird stuff and just maybe lower budget, just crazy odd stuff, I want to see what Denis Villeneuve has. So he's a weird guy that before watching these shorts, I didn't really quite grasp just how weird he is. Rated R for Nudity is just, I watched it right before bed. It basically hypnotized me for bed.
Did you rate this, Tyler? Oh, you rate everything?
Yeah, I rate everything. I'm come on.
I like that. I like that it ends with "I own you" or whatever you said, Tyler. And I like the idea that Denny actually doesn't make good movies, but he's hypnotized us all. Like he owns us somewhere in his movies. He's hypnotized us all.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say what kind of branch off of what you just said about like him, just like when he's done with Dune, just like go into like these small like art house projects. I feel like he's obviously proven that he's capable of whatever he wants. War.
I don't think he will though.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's between Arrival and now Dune Part 2 and eventually Dune Messiah and Rendezvous with Ranma. He's clearly found like
the scales too.
He loves these conceptually grand science fiction projects. Obviously, he can be stretched as far as possible if he wants. He's proven that. And he's capable of it. But I feel like his whole career has been geared towards building himself up to create like this Dune trilogy.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And who knows? I mean, we've talked about how much it mirrors Christopher Nolan's career trajectory. Maybe to some similar where Christopher Nolan was like, I want to do a biopic. I'm going to do a biopic on Oppenheimer. And then he just can't help himself but to make it the most like epic, intense biopic of all time with incredible score and visuals. That even when like I feel like Nolan conceptually for Oppenheimer is like I'm going to go a little more grounded than something like a Tenet or like a Interstellar, but then Oppenheimer ends up being still just like basically a magnum opus, honestly.